प्रमिला जी, आपका माइक ऑन है प्रमिला जी।
Still on?
So that Brahman, which is absolute, infinite, changeless, doesn't undergo any change at all. So creation is a logical impossibility. Still we are seeing creation. That is because we are identified with this body. And as long as we are identified with the body, creation is there. So creation does not exist for me when I am not identified with the body. Like in the state of deep sleep, there is no creation for me. Now, if somebody says, is deep sleep, when I go to sleep, I put a bucket of water and, drop by drop, it is, filling up. Now, when I wake up, that bucket of water is full. That means even when I was sleeping, Srishti was there. Or when I was sleeping, I experienced certain things. When I woke up, suddenly things, some of them are different. That means Srishti was there in between. So from one standpoint, we say, yes, it was there, but we were not experiencing because our identity became dormant in deep sleep. So for now, we will take that simpler standpoint, that Srishti is experienced only when I is there. Srishti is not experienced when this I is not there. Which means that I have not created the Srishti. From this standpoint, I have not created the Srishti. As a Jiva, I am not the creator of the Srishti. There is some other factor which has created. So Brahman does not change and does not create. Jiva cannot create. Who created? Ishvara created. Because Brahman plus Maya becomes Ishvara. All of you who have studied Tattva Bodh, etc., you know this. The power of Brahman is Maya, and Maya is an explanation, is a reason, or we can say Maya is an explanation given for those of us who cannot understand that there is no creation. So we say, yes, Brahman using the Maya became Ishvara, the creator. And now that creator creates the whole universe. So what is the meaning of Ishvara Shrishti? What Bhagavan says, in the 4th chapter in the Gita. Prakritim swamadhisthaya sambhavami atma mayaya. He says that controlling my prakriti, I manifest. So now Ishvara Shrishti is because Brahman took up the role of Ishvara, number one. Number two, Brahman took up this role as Ishvara voluntarily, not by any force. We will see what does that mean. Brahman does not create the creation out of compulsion, like we do many things out of compulsion. Because there is vasana pressure. Brahman has no such pressure. Out of self-will, it is created. Out of complete control over Maya, the Srishti comes forth. So one is Brahman becomes Ishvara, controls the Maya, and the whole Srishti is an appearance of this Brahman, of this Ishvara. Ishvara and Brahman are one. So though we may say it is, the Srishti Kram, which we understand is from Maya comes space, then air, then fire, then water, then earth. So the 5 elements. Then from these 5 elements, because the Maya has 3 gunas, each element has 3 gunas. So from the sattvic aspect of the 5 elements, 5 senses of knowledge are born. And from the collective sattvic aspect, the antakarana, sukshma sharira is born. Mind, intellect, memory, ego. From the rajasic aspect of the 5 elements, 5 senses of action are born and 5 pranas are born. From the collective rajasic aspect. Tamasic aspect will go through panchikarana mixing process, and through that the 5 elements mix with each other. Then the gross bodies of all the beings and the inert things, everything is born. The physical gross body from the tamasic aspect of grossified 5 elements. This is the kram of Srishti from Ishvara. Now we should remember this one thing, that when Srishti happens from Ishvara, the cause alone appears as the effect. So cause appearing as the effect means all this is divine. It is not some God sitting up there and producing things being separate. In all the waves in the ocean are an appearance of ocean only. All the pots and cups and pitcher and saucer is what? Is nothing but mud. So all this is appearance of the divine. Hence we worship everything in this creation as divine, because it is, effect is nothing but cause in another form. So everything is divine here, including each of us. That's why we are called Amritasya Putraha. We are children of immortality. And in our essential nature, we are immortal. We are not one small part of immortality. This part and whole business is different level. In Advait, we say we are that infinite Brahman. We are not one small part of Brahman. Brahman has no parts. Brahman is infinite. We are that infinite Brahman who has forgotten itself as though, and then this whole thing has happened. So the creation of Ishvara and Srishti are not different. Ishvara and Jiva are not different. Ishvara and Brahman also not different. Problem arises because we have separated. We think that Ishvara is separate from me. Ishvara is separate from creation. Ishvara is sitting somewhere up there. So we want to know, why did he create the world? Then we have all these questions, Ishwar kare, whatever Ishwar does, it is Leela. And we are suffering in that. Who is this we separate from Ishvara? One sun reflecting in 1,000 pots, there are 1,000 reflections. But these reflections have no independent identity. These reflections are all sun. Same way each of us, the BMI is one pot. Body is the pot, water is the mind. And consciousness reflecting in it is the Jiva. So that Jiva is not different from Brahman, that the sun. So it is not that Ishvara is sitting somewhere up there and he created the creation and we are suffering because it is his play. No, he has only become all this and he is appearing as all this and he is only going through all this. That is Ishvara Srishti. That Ishvara appearing, and why did Ishvara appear? So Upanishads give many theories. But please remember, the theories don't validate creation. Theories are to satisfy us. Those theories are only to give us some answer so that our buddhi become little quiet, and then we contemplate on that glory of that Ishvara and realize, oh, that is me only. So that Ishvara, who was one, or we say Brahman was one and Brahman decided to become many. So, Sadeva Somya Idam Agra Asit. There was only one Sat before all this creation. Then, Sa Aikshata Lokanusrujaiti. That Brahman thought, may I create the creation or may I become many. then the whole creation happened. So this process we may explain that, this Brahman thought and then this Srishti, the whole thing happened. But we should not forget that this is an explanation for us. This is not a validation that creation actually got created. And it is not a production. That is another aspect of Ishvara Srishti. Ishvara Srishti is not a production of Ishvara. What we just said, Ishvara is not separate from the Srishti and producing it like a potter producing pot. Nor is it a modification like the Ishvara becoming the creation. It's not like milk becoming curd. Then milk is gone. There's only curd. Bhagwan doesn't modify to become the creation. So there is no production, there is no modification, and there is no evolution. There is no question of Ishvara evolving to become creation. If it is not production, modification, evolution, then what is it? Remaining changeless, Brahman appears as Ishvara and appears as the universe. That is called Vivarta, appearance. So in Vedanta we always say Brahman appears as the universe. Brahman did not produce the universe. Brahman did not modify to become the universe. Brahman did not evolve to become the universe. It's an appearance. Like the waker appears as the dream creator and then creates the dream world and dream characters, and in that one dream character the waker identifies with. The entire thing is a dream, is an appearance. Waker is not producing the dream. Waker is not modifying to become the dream. Lucky, otherwise, we sleep as a human being. What we will wake up as, we don't know. Why Waker modified? Waker is not producing, Waker is not modifying, Waker is not evolving to become the dreamer. Then the Waker can never wake up. All the three are rejected. Then what is happening? The Waker is only appearing as the dream creator, the whole dream world and the dream characters. When that appearance goes, Waker wakes up and says, Arey, I am the Waker Brahman, there was no dream at all. So from Brahman standpoint and Ishwar standpoint, this is what we say. Though there is a sequence given, though there is some reasoning given, that is to satisfy us. That is not to say creation is valid and real. Now, this is about Ishvara Srishti done by the will, and Ishvara is omnipresent, omnipotent, omniscient. So anything can happen in this Srishti. From Ishvara standpoint, anything is possible. Ishvara created the Jiva. Ishvara is the karma phala data, karma adhyaksh. The capability in the Jiva is alive, is because of Ishvara. The Jiva has capabilities of the senses, mind, intellect. So perception, feeling, thinking are possible because Ishvara is the karma adhyaksh. Without Ishvara's presence, this will not function. Those of you who have studied Kenopanishad, you know that story of the Yaksha and the grass, blade of grass. That Indra, that Agni and Vayu, and they could not move even a blade of grass. They are so mighty phenomenal forces, but without the will of Ishvara, they couldn't move one blade of grass. So Ishvara is that mighty force which enlivens this body, mind, intellect, which gives them capability to act. And of course, as Ishvara has created, appearing as this whole creation, Ishvara has given human beings the buddhi. So Ishvara has given that freedom to the human being to do purusharth, to evolve, to devolve, to make choices. Ishvara also is the author of the Vedas. Veda is nothing but Ishvara, the breath of Ishvara, what we say. Yasya nishvasitam vedaha, meaning Ishvara and Veda are one. So not only the equipments are created, the equipments are enlivened, the equipments, how to use them, the knowledge is there in the Vedas. The Shastras, the scriptures are all Bhagwan's glory only. And Bhagwan only manifested them. And when we do actions, the results which we get, they are also from Bhagwan. So he is the karma phala data. How does he give karma phala? Because he created the law of karma. So the systems are created in this universe also because of Ishvara. So this, and according to this system, this karma will give karma phala. So karma phala data, so he is not ad hoc distributing some karma phalas to people. The karma phalas are coming as per the law of karma. What is Ishvara's job then? To bring the jivas together to exhaust their karmas mutually, so that they can evolve. So these are various aspects of Ishvara Srishti. And also, will Ishvara manifest in this creation or not? Of course, Ishvara has appeared as all this creation, plus Ishvara also has forms. See, Ishvara can appear as this whole universe. Ishvara can manifest as all the jivas. Why cannot Ishvara appear as form? So whether we say Shiva, Rama, Krishna, Govinda, Durga, Devi, Hanuman, all these forms are real. We cannot say, no, these are creations of human being. Please remember, Ishvara is not creation of man. Man is creation of Ishvara. In today's world, people like to think that human being has created concept of God. God is not created man. There is nothing called God. Human being has created concept of God to control people, to enforce morality, Otherwise, God does not exist. Go back to our scriptures and read and think about it. The Abrahamic faiths have destroyed the complete thinking of the native faiths in this country, in this world. The one surviving faith is ours. All the other faiths they have destroyed. Systematically they have destroyed because of their narrow vision. That's it. Their concept of God, their concept of understanding of the reality comes nowhere close to what is given in the Vedas. And that world view of theirs and that God view of theirs, they want to impose on other people, and we are buying those things. So in all ways they are trying to destroy, which we are not even recognizing. We are happily getting destroyed also by buying into all those stupid arguments, illogical arguments. We have to think clearly. God is not a creation of human being. How can a finite jiva who has no power to control his own life create the mighty reality? Logic also says that is not possible. People may have used religion to control. That is a people's problem. That does not deny the truth. Please think that. People want power, people want control, people want to enforce their opinions on others. They use religion to control, which is how they use other things also to control, or not? Are they not using love to control? So can we say love is false? No. Are people not enforcing themselves in relationships? Being possessive in relationships? So can we say love is false? No. Is the exploitation not happening in education, in medicine, in law, in media, in every field? That is human being's stupid problem, because the human being becomes greedy and doesn't think clearly. That cannot deny the truth. So it is not that God has been conceived by human being. Please, these are all modern day so-called intellectuals' notions, which are absolutely shallow. They will not stand the test of time. Even little logic, they will not stand the test. But because it is written and some reputation is there of certain people and they have created a brand for themselves and some people publish all those things, now people read and think it is real, as though it is Veda Vakya. You can challenge any of those things. We don't question. Our problem is that as Hindus, we have forgotten to question. Where our scriptures are telling us to question, there is not a single scripture where questioning is not there. Continuous questions are being asked. We need to ask questions. We have become intellectually, our stupor has set in, intellectually the tamas has set in. So we are just taking whatever the so-called intellectuals are saying. How many saints have had darshan of Bhagwan? Just think about it. Forget any other Puranic, what we call stories of the Mahatmas or the Bhaktas. If Prahlad and all of them you may not believe. Look at the people who are in the last century. Did they have darshan of Bhagwan or not? Shivananji Maharaj had darshan of Krishna Bhagwan or not? Akhandananji Maharaj had or not? They are saints of 20th century. When they say that they have had darshan of Shri Krishna, what does that mean? It is not created by them. The Krishna is not created by them. It's a different matter that Bhagwan can appear to us in any form that we worship. That does not mean that we have created Bhagwan. You see, a child may want the father, sometimes the fathers and mothers, sometimes they put on a mask and they play with the child, and while they tell the story, so they put on the mask of a tiger, and that acting of tiger they will do, and the child is so happy. After some time the child says, no, now you tell me the story of the bear. So the mask of the tiger is gone, the bear is created. And the child is entertained with the story of the bear. Now does that mean that the father is created by the child? Just because father is appearing in whichever form that the child wants, does it mean that the father is created by the child? How stupid is that argument? Father is appearing like that because the father loves the child and the child wants to see the father in that way. So if a devotee wants to see Bhagwan in Krishna, form of Krishna, Bhagwan appears as a form of Krishna. It's not that Krishna's form does not exist. Our Puranas and all of them say very clearly that forms of the Lord exist independent of this creation, meaning our Bhuloka. So we say or not, in Kailash Lord Shiva resides, in Vaikuntha Vishnu Bhagwan resides, in Golok Krishna Bhagwan resides, in Saket Ram Bhagwan resides. These are not imaginations. We think, oh, it's all imagination. Go deeper into sadhana, quieten the mind and understand so many things are real. These things are more real than this world actually. But we are so blinded by the attachment to our body and the world, these things become as though these are symbolism. This doesn't exist. God is only a support system created by human being to make the mind quiet. Wonderful. That means all the darshan that so many Mahatmas have had are all falsified. Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, did he not have darshan of Mother Kali? Did he not make Vivekananda have darshan of Mother Kali? So we should think that these are not people who are superficial. These are people who have done deep sadhana. And the experience of all such people is pointing out to the same truth, that God exists, the forms of God are real. Ishvara can manifest in any form. Ye yatha mam prapadyante tam tathaiva bhajamyam. Bhagwan said in the Gita, in whichever form, whichever bhav one approaches Bhagwan, Bhagwan will manifest in that form. Yo yam tanum bhakta shraddhaya architum ichchati. Tasya chalam shraddham tameva vidadhamyam. 7th chapter he says that, 21st verse. Yo yam, whichever form, in whichever bhav the devotee approaches me, I will increase the shraddha of the devotee in that form and I will manifest in that form. And that happens. How many people have had darshan of Bhagwan Ram and Shivji? You should read the literature of these saints. 63 or 66, I don't remember the exact number. The saints of the Shaivite tradition, the Nayanars they are called. Darshan of Shivji they have had. And so many are historical. If you read their life, you will know they were existing during the time of Cholas, Cheras, Pandyas, those kings. Read the literature of 12 Alvars, the devotees of Lord Vishnu, to whom Vishnu Bhagwan gave darshan. One of them is Andal, another is Kulashekar Alvar. Such great people are there who are historical people. Avayyar, she had darshan of Kartikeya Bhagwan. So we should not dismiss all this in the superficial outlook of the so-called liberals, who are the most, what we call, narrow-minded and confused, confounded people. Nothing liberal about them. How to destroy our faith. So Bhagwan manifests. In Ishwar Srishti, Ishwar will manifest. And Bhagwan says also, avatar he can take. That is beautiful aspect of our culture. Even in our culture, not everybody believes in avatar. Arya Samaj will not believe in avatar. But Advait Vedanta and the traditions of Vedanta, Dvaita, Vishishtadvaita and Advaita, all of them will believe in avatar. That Bhagwan manifests. And the conditions also are given. So one is manifestation outside, other is Adhyatma avatar. In the heart, the darshan of the devotee, the darshan happens for the devotee. So yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata abhyutthanam adharmasya tadatmanam srijamyaham. So Bhagwan manifests. So in Ishwar Srishti, now we say Bhagwan cannot take avatar. Why Bhagwan cannot take avatar? Infinity can take any form. Can a director of a movie not play a role in the movie? Who bans a director from playing a role inside the movie? We have seen so many movies in which some of the directors themselves take part as a role, as a character they will play, but they are the director of the movie. So Bhagwan also takes form. So avatar has happened, and it's not only 10 avatars of Vishnu. Vishnu Bhagwan has many, many avatars. Bhagavatam describes so many. Shivji also has many avatars. Vishnu Bhagwan also has many avatars. So we should not think that all these are false and wrong, and none of them are. They are all real. Now this is Ishwar Srishti. Now Ishwara has created the Jagat also, appears as a Jagat, and the Jiva also created the laws in the universe also, and given the freedom to the Jiva. Now from a unicellular to the first human birth, let us say, that is also assuming there is a sequence in creation. In an appearance, there is no sequence. Even if there is a sequence, that sequence also is an appearance only. It is not real. So in the first human birth, we have buddhi. From the first human birth, we have the buddhi. Whenever we get human birth, we will be blessed with a buddhi. What does that buddhi means? That is a sukshma buddhi. See, buddhi is there even in the other animals and birds, but that's a sthula buddhi, where they are able to discriminate only what to eat, what not to eat, who is a friend, who is an enemy, those things, gross things. Human being can do subtler vivek. So the human being has this capacity of discriminating between right and wrong. So ethical issues human being can decide. For a animal, there is no ethical issue, ethical dilemma is not there. Because it lives out of instinct. We have self-awareness, we have a little more awareness of who we are. And we have ethical issues because we have choice at the buddhi level. Sukshma buddhi is there. So right and wrong, what is duty, what is not duty, what is good, what is pleasant, shreyas and preyas. Where is happiness and where happiness is not, sukha dukkha. What is a means, what is a goal, sadhana sadhya. What is temporary, what is permanent, nitya and anitya. What is atma, what is anatma, self and not self. All these discriminations human being can do. So just amount of choice that human being has is very vast. Now because we have come through the evolution process from animals, initially we don't use our buddhi properly because we don't have the training at all. We still live with animalistic instincts and impulses. And that's how we create our karmic debt, the karmic bondage. Now, Jiva Srishti means what? Ishwar Srishti is called Jagat, which is common for all. The sun, moon, stars, rivers, planets, solar system, the whole universe. Ishwar Srishti. What is Jiva Srishti? Jiva Srishti is the individual living in this Jagat, has their own raga and dvesha, and perceives based on that the whole universe in a different way. Right now also, each of you are listening to this talk. Will each one grasp in the same way? No. Each one will grasp according to their conditioning. So objects remaining the same, every jiva relates to that object as per their baggage of vasanas. So the same object some people like, some people don't like. The same object at some time a person likes, at some other time the person doesn't like. Why? Because it is in the mind here. So Ishwara Srishti is common to all, but Jiva Srishti is creation of every single Jiva, and it is inside the head, that is called samsara. I'm just creating that distinction so that we are clear. Technically, there may not be such a distinction all the time when the word samsara is used, but for our understanding right now, I'm making that difference. Over Ishwara Srishti, Jiva has no control. But over samsara, Jiva has control. Because samsara is born out of raga and dvesha. Atmabodh, those of you who have studied, samsara swapna tulyohi raga dveshadi sankulaha. Swakale satyavad bhati prabodhe sati asad bhavet. Samsara swapna tulyohi. It is our imagination, it is our projection. Raga dveshadi sankulaha, and it is filled with our own raga and dvesha. So our raga and dvesha makes it real to us. So somebody likes fruits, somebody doesn't like fruits. Fruits are by itself creation of Ishvara. Now we like because our raga, somebody has raga so they love it, somebody has dvesha so they hate it. That is their raga and dvesha. And it is their raga and dvesha which makes them relate to it. So in Jiva Srishti, number one, Jiva is under the control of vasanas and avidya. Ishvara is controlling Maya. Number two, Jiva responds to Ishvara Srishti based on their own raga and dvesha. So the whole experience of the world is happening inside here. There is nothing outside there. This inside outside is a myth. From the body standpoint, we say inside outside. But if you see actually what is inside, inside means what? Inside the body is nothing, it's only flesh, bones and all that. Mind is what is experiencing through the brain. Mind is not equal to brain. So the whole Srishti is experienced by us inside our mind. It is not outside at all. Today, what Vedanta is saying, today science is also saying that or not. What will they say? If you look at an apple, what areas of your brain light up? The same areas of your brain will light up if you close your eyes and just imagine an apple. How strange is that? So what? Because the brain doesn't know, there is nothing called inside and outside as far as the brain is concerned. This inside and outside is a concept created by the mind which is identified with the body. The mind, when it is not identified with the body and it is, in the deep sleep state, there is no inside outside. So Jiva Srishti is a projection of the Jiva's mind, of how this Jiva experiences this whole creation. And this Jiva is compelled by avidya and vasanas. And this Jiva, because of this avidya and vasanas, thinks of itself as a Jiva, as a finite entity, forgetting that it is actually Brahman. Ishvara never forgets he is Ishvara who is Brahman. Jiva forgets. Even Ishvara takes avatar, Ishvara never forgets that I am Brahman. But Jiva has forgotten I am Brahman. Now, as a Jiva, when the Jiva is reacting in this world and doing karmas in the world, then what happens? The Jiva has to experience karma phala because Jiva is the karta. So Jiva only has to be the bhokta. Not every karma phala will come in the same life. So Punarjanma exists for the Jiva. For Ishvara, there is no Punarjanma. Punarjanma is existing for the Jiva because Jiva has to be the karta. Jiva has become the karta, so Jiva has to be the bhokta. Now this cycle of birth and death continues to go on and on and on. Till one doesn't realize oneness with Ishvara, oneness with the universe. This division between Jiva, Jagat, Jagadishvara, when it dissolves, then Jiva realizes, "Arey, this was whole appearance, I was Brahman all the time." Like the waker wakes, the dream character has woken up. When the dream character wakes up, the dream world disappears, the dream character is gone, and the dream creator also is gone. Who is there? Waker. Then there is no Jiva Srishti, there is no Ishvara Srishti. But as long as Jiva Bhav is there, Jagat is real, creator of that Jagat is Ishvara, and in the Jagat there are many other Jivas. So I have a karmic debt with these other Jivas. So I keep taking birth in this Jagat again and again. Why? Prompted by my own avidya, my own vasanas, my own raga and dvesha, my own ichha. And because Ishvara is having Ichha Shakti, Kriya Shakti, Jnana Shakti, and I am an Amsha of that Ishvara, so I also have Ichha Shakti, Kriya Shakti, Jnana Shakti, because of which I am going round and round in this circle of birth and death. Because of my Ichha Shakti and Kriya Shakti. If I use my Jnana Shakti properly to realize who am I, then I can break this delusion that I am a Jiva. So Jiva Srishti is what the Jiva experiences based on its own avidya, its own ichha, its own raga and dvesha. And the Jiva has full freedom to end the samsara. That is in the head here. And that's why Gurudev used to always give this definition, samsara. What he would say? Who is a samsari? One who is always somewhat sorry is a samsari. No matter what this Jiva achieves in this world, always something incomplete, always misery and crying and weeping and this is not there and that is not there, Bapre. And then he would joke further. Why is he always somewhat sorry? Because he is holding on to someone's sari. So he is a samsari. No problem with marriage by itself, but I'm just saying the attachment is what makes us bound. Attachment is the glue which makes us stick to this samsara and to the Jagat finally. So with Purushartha, what can I do? I can come to wake up and realize that this whole Jiva Bhav only is a mithya. Then what to talk about Raga and Dvesha and the Karta, all that is mithya. It's all my projection because I didn't know what is the truth. When we come to Vedanta, then we realize no, this is all just a role. At the maximum, what can we say? This is a role that I am playing, I am something else. Like the actor is different from the roles he plays. If the actor doesn't know that I am the actor and the actor thinks I am this role, finished. That actor can't play another role. So the actor knows very well I am different. This is only a role. So same way when we live in this world, we have to live. This is, if you say this is the Srishti of Ishvara, then I am a servant of that Ishvara or I am that Amsha of Ishvara. So Dvaita and Vishishta Dvaita come there. And both of them lead to surrender of the Lord, surrender to the Lord. But if I say Advaita, then we say that this is an appearance, all these roles, etc., an appearance. I am a Sakshi or I am Sachidananda Swarup Atma. Contemplate on that true nature and wake up. When one wakes up, what happens? Jiva Srishti also gone, Ishvara Srishti also gone. One realizes I am Brahman. That is the state of realization. So this is what Jiva Srishti, Ishvara Srishti and Brahman is all about. Now, any questions on this? Anything you want to ask, share, please unmute and ask or share, and then again mute yourself. Did this topic come about because of any specific text that any of you are studying, or is a general topic that you have given me?
Yeah, Swamiji, this is Vinita. We were studying the 4th chapter, so it came there.
Okay, the avatar, from the avatar aspect.
Avatar, yeah.
Manjuji,
Yeah,
you want-
Swamiji, I have a question. Swamiji, I have a question. Manju here. Yeah, Swamiji, you said the avatar knows his nature. Even when he takes the form, he knows his true nature. So if he is in sync with his true nature, then if you take the avatar of Ram and Krishna, Ram throughout his life seemed to suffer a lot, whereas Krishna doesn't seem to suffer. So why is this? I'm a little confused about this. If both knew their true nature, then why is Ram shown as suffering and crying in separation of his wife and all the problems he went through?
Amitabh Bachchan is a billionaire, but he can play the role of a beggar and make you so convinced that you will want to give him 10 rupees when he asks from the begging bowl. And he will get a national award for it also. It depends on the purpose of that role, you see. So purpose of Bhagwan Ram's avatar is to live as a human being and to show a person that as a human being going through all the troubles and difficulties of life, how to live without compromising with dharma. So suffering is a part of human life, pain is a part of human life, but suffering is optional. So Bhagwan Ram shows that, pain is there in life, there is sorrow also, but he is not suffering inside. He sticks to dharma. That is the objective of Ram avatar. Objective of Krishna avatar is Krishna is not appearing as a human being. Krishna is appearing as divine, straight. Krishna is to Bhagavan Swayam. So you will not see miracles in Ram avatar, but you will see a lot of miracles in Krishna avatar.
Yes.
Both of them are aware I am Brahman, but both of them are playing different roles to establish different ideals for people. And that's why
and for a different purpose.
That's why very important to remember this. Follow what Bhagwan Krishna spoke and do what Ram did. Don't try to do reverse. Don't try to do what Krishna did, because you can't live with 16,008 wives, impossible. Cannot drink poison at 6 days old and live. Cannot dance on Kalia. Cannot live Govardhan on one small finger. Don't do what Krishna did. Follow what Krishna spoke. And do what Ram did. He lived in dharma. So that's the thing.
Okay. Thank you, Swamiji. One more question. You said in the beginning of your talk, when you spoke of Kenopanishad example, and you said, when all these gods tried to do something, they were unable to do because Ishwar was not, it is Ishwar who enables us to act and everything is possible because of him. But I always thought when he says, I'm the eye of the eye, it was Brahman. Which enables, and Atman in us, which is the enlivener and enabler in us. So I'm a little confused with this Brahman and Ishwar thing in this example.
Please always remember this, that when we speak at any level of manifestation, it has to be Ishwara, because Brahman will not manifest. But who is that Ishwara? Is that Ishwara not Brahman? Ishwara is Brahman. Like we gave the example of the father wearing a mask. Now father wearing a mask becomes a tiger, but who is he? He is father.
He's a father only.
He's not tiger, he is father. So Brahman only is appearing as Ishwara, because at Ishwara level only Srishti is possible. So wherever there is a manifestation, there it will be Ishwara only. But we should never distinguish between Brahman and Ishwara, that they are separate. It is Brahman only appearing as Ishwara.
They are same.
They are same.
Second
point is that
it's just
enlivening happens by, what is the meaning of enlivening? The inert appear as sentient because of that presence of that consciousness.
Okay?
That is one part of enlivening.
Right.
Now the buddhi is able to function because of the will and the capability of consciousness. When I say will, it is not a will that you and I understand. What I mean is by the presence of consciousness. So like if electricity supply is shut off, now the bulb can't give light. So we can say by the will of electricity that bulb gives light.
Yeah, okay.
So if Ishvara says that this grass will not move, how much ever Indra tries, Ishvara, the Indra cannot move the grass or Vayu cannot move the grass, because the will of Ishvara is sustaining that grass.
Okay.
So the power of, it is not that Vayu could not use his power. Bhagwan did not shut off the power of Vayu. It is not that Agni could not use his power. They to tried with full force, but the will of Ishvara is that this grass of blade of grass has my protection. Now let them do anything, nothing will happen. Now that sustains.
Okay.
So when Ishvara wills something, it will manifest, because the whole creation is a thought projection of Ishvara.
Okay.
The entire Srishti is just a thought projection.
So it's not in the same way of enabling as we say. Okay.
No, it wouldn't be like that.
Okay, so that was the confusion I had.
That freedom is ours.
Yeah.
Swamiji, can I?
Thank you, Swamiji. Thank you, Swamiji.
Swamiji, can I ask you something, please?
1 minute. One by one we will go. Binaji will ask first. After that you can ask.
Okay. So Swamiji, what I have understood from the talk, what I can grasp is that even Ishvara has, first Ishvara has Ichha, Kriya and Gyan Shakti, which we also, because we are also Ishwar, which we don't know yet, we also have Ichha, Kriya and Gyan Shakti, but we are only using the Ichha and Kriya, and we have to get the Gyan by getting knowledge and change our Purusharth and Karma. Is it?
Correct. So we are using Jnana Shakti in lower forms, not in the higher form of Jnana. So we also have Jnana of the objects of the world, of the various other fields in the world. That Jnana is there, but we are not using the Jnana as Atma Jnana. So we need to use that Jnana and change the Purusharth, then we realize the self.
Which we are, as a seeker, when we are in the mission, we are trying to get that Atma Gyan. We should practice it also. That's
and the practice of Atma Gyan, practice of this, this pursuit of knowledge can be intensified, and the knowledge will take root in us only when the Ichhas are controlled and the Kriya, which is my karma, becomes dedicated to Bhagwan. So Karma Yoga comes there. Upasana comes at the to control the Ichha, make the mind single pointed. If I do both these, then Jnana Shakti will manifest properly. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. I don't remember the name. Somebody had asked before.
Yeah, Kiran. My name is Kiran.
Yes, please ask.
Can I ask? Hari Om Swamiji. Now, you were talking about the saints of earlier, and now there's a video being circulated of Sadhguru where he's calling Ram a disaster, Ram's life a disaster, and Ram as a failure. Isn't this misleading? At the same time, he's praising Ram for his attributes and keeping his cool and going to Lanka to fight and get his wife back. But isn't it misleading to the youngsters to call Ram's life as a failure and disaster? Is it right?
See, I am not going to judge on that, right, wrong, and all that, but it is his perspective. And that's why I'm saying we must become more clearer about our literature, our, dharma, and ideals that Ram represented. In what context he said, I don't know, so I will not comment on that. But how many people's perceptions can we control, and how many people's perceptions can we judge as right, wrong? Because each one has the freedom of their thinking, their expression, and they are doing what they are doing. The best way is for us to understand Ram in his approach of life and his attitude towards dharma and how did he live his life, and internalize those ideals and lift ourselves. Because people will tell anything at any time now. That depends on their thinking, their mindset, what they are convinced of, what they are not convinced of. That is up to them. If it is misleading to people, it can mislead only when we are not clear. No? Otherwise, why will it mislead us?
Swamiji, we are clear, but the youngsters follow Sadhguru so much nowadays. That is a problem. That is
no, that is not.
That's where the problem lies.
See, because that is not a problem. If the youngsters have been able to be exposed to the other aspects and being, the samskar is there, or, the understanding has been there in some way, then they will figure their way out. They will know what to choose, what not to choose. And in other ways also, if we think about it, suppose they don't have samskar, when they are following a particular individual, they are listening. Truth is something which can never be denied. Truth always stands the test of the time. In time, the truth will reveal what is what. That person themselves will figure out. It's a matter of their own karma also, that they have to be led in this way, or they accept certain things, or they reject certain things and they apply it and they see the consequences. It's a part of evolutionary process. Now, we are not here to be able to go and tell Sadhguru that, you should not speak like this, or this is wrong, or that is right. That's why I'm saying, from our standpoint, what can we do? Suppose a video has gone out like that, and we know that there are some youngsters who are following. We can present a counter view to those youngsters whom we know, or we can create a video and put it up saying this is how Lord Ram's life is. Then leave it to them, because we are living in an age of information. We are living in an age where people want to make their own choices. They don't want anybody to enforce their opinions on them. So what we have to create is the proper narrative from our standpoint and keep it in the domain. So at least there is two sides of this, on the issue are presented, then they will follow.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Swamiji, may I ask a question if there's nobody else before me?
Yes.
So Charita here.
Yes, please ask.
Yeah. I'm not sure I can articulate this better, but today for me the takeaway has been, when you spoke about Punarjanma, up to now I always thought Punarjanma was, if I realized in this birth, then probably in this life, if I could realize, then probably I will not have another birth. Now this was my belief till now. Today what you told me, I'm beginning to understand that it is not a question of this birth and the next birth. It's a question of not having that attachment to this birth, not even having an attachment to the next, whatever happens after that. So am I correct in that understanding, or have I not understood it?
No, the understanding is correct. When realization happens, one will actually realize I was never born.
Okay. So you realize that all this is mithya itself.
Yeah.
This entire thing. Yeah. Okay.
The birth and death is a part of the illusion.
Okay.
The self is unborn, ajaha.
Okay.
So eternal self is never born. Brahman can never be born. Brahman is timeless, eternal, absolute reality. And I am that Brahman.
Okay.
When one wakes up to that, that is the realization. Like the waker realizes that the dream character was never born, never died, never went through rebirth, because that was a part of the dream illusion. I am the waker all the time.
Okay.
That is what the person realizes. But within the realm of the illusion, then one has to put efforts to come to that state of awakening.
Okay.
And in that context, the Punarjanma is to create vairagya in us. How long will you keep running behind things, and how long will you keep doing the cycle of birth and death? Learn to wake up. So for that, it is to be understood in that context.
Swamiji, I just posted one question. This is Vandana.
You please ask, because I have not read the chat.
Oh, okay. When we're talking about the Krishna avatar and he shows the Vishwarupa, and miracles do happen. I mean, people do, very, very realized people. I'm always very, very curious about, how did he show that Vishwarupa? Is that possible? And another thing, that in Krishna's lifetime also, he went through a lot after the Mahabharata. He had to run away from all his cities. His cities, what he built, the Yadav clan was totally drowned and gone. And he also didn't have a very good end. Somebody, I think he died by an arrow or something like that. So that is also his human side of his existence as an avatar. I just want a little clarification on his Vishwarupa, please.
See, Vishwarupa is there is no problem in that possibility, because Ishvara can grant that, and you see in the 10th chapter, Bhagavan says that, na?
Yeah.
11th chapter, Bhagavan gives him Dadami, what is that, the Divya Chakshu he gives.
Yeah.
He blesses them with this Divya Chakshu, and he says, with your Anenaiva Swachakshusha, with your eyes you can't see this Vishwarup, I bless you. Now what is that? It's not some special eye he has given here. It's a mystic vision, which only a prepared mind can see, because he is giving this in the battlefield. Why only Arjun saw, and why only Sanjay saw, and why Hanumanji saw? 3 people saw. Other people are not seeing. They are still thinking Krishna and Arjuna are talking in the middle of the battlefield. They are not seeing. So it is the mind which gets prepared, and that divine grace of the Lord, that the boundaries that this mind has of time and space are temporarily removed. If you remove the boundary of time and space and the reality we give to it, suddenly everything becomes evident. See, it is like this, na? When we observe through, suppose you are taking a photograph. So when you are observing the shot which you want to take a photograph, you will see through the lens. Now what will be visible is only what is in the lens. Na? The moment you take that camera away, you suddenly see everything more. It was always there. Now I was seeing from one small lens. So
by my limited vision, what you're saying, by my limited vision that we see, and if we remove that, we see the entire reality.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much, Swamiji. Hari Om.
Second part of your question was about human side of Krishna. Of course, Krishna is a human being, so he will depict certain human sides, but he lived primarily as God. So he did a lot of miracles. And when he has to exit as a human only. No, he can't exit as God. And he was fulfilling a karmic connection. That is very interesting. You know, in Ram Avatar, he killed Vali from behind. Now that Vali became that fisherman here, or not fisherman, that hunter in Krishna Avatar. And when Bhagwan's leg, you know, he had folded one leg on the other, and he was resting below a tree. Now the toe of the Lord appeared as though it is the mouth of a deer to that hunter. And this hunter has made this whole, this arrow specially from a small piece of a mace which a fish had swallowed. And what is that piece of mace? Some of these Yadavas in their arrogance had, you know, hidden a mace in one and dressed up a man as a woman, and they had kept a mace inside and made her look pregnant. And they went to one Rishi to ridicule him. They said, can you predict the gender of this child? The Rishi was Trikal Jnani. The Rishi said, and he understood, they were drunk also. So he said, whatever is inside this will become the cause of the destruction of your entire clan. When this Rishi gave that curse, suddenly they realized, oh God, what have we done? And that was a mace. So they powdered that entire mace and threw it in the lake. But this one part of that mace, they couldn't powder it. Now, the curse of the Rishi is your entire clan will get destroyed. Krishna is also in the part of the clan, Yadava clan. So now he has to also exit. So these Yadavas, they pick up some fight, and the grass which is growing in that lake, somebody pulls up that grass becomes a mace. And they fight with each other. The whole Yadava clan gets finished. Now only Krishna is remaining there. I'm not telling in sequence this happened, but this happened, parallelly this happened. So this fish was captured by this hunter and opened up, and from there he got this arrow made this arrow and he shot, and Bhagavan left the body. Now think about it, an arrow being shot on the toe doesn't kill somebody directly. That is a nimitta. So karmic, though Bhagavan doesn't have karma, but Bhagavan voluntarily takes up that karma. And then he settled that in the Krishna avatar. So Vali as though got his revenge.
Swamiji, we've never heard this story. This was very, very revealing, very, very nice. Very nice.
In Bhagavatam, very clearly.
Yeah, but unfortunately, I haven't read this one as yet. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, everyone. I have 2 announcements to make before we conclude for today. And they are that we have upcoming 2 very interesting events. So please make note of these and participate. One event is tomorrow, immediately. I'm just going to share on the screen, you will see. And that is a Shishu Vihar camp, which we have. 7th and 8th August, that is tomorrow and day after, for children of 2 to 5 years. Jai Shri Krishna is the theme of the camp because next week is Janmashtami. And this is the Shishu Vihar camp. Swamini Supriyananji will take only 2 sessions in the day, one at 11 o'clock, one at 4:30. But through the day, there are lots of videos, etc. being sent. So the child can do yoga, the child can do some craft, they can sing some bhajans, many things will be there. So it's like a camp, online camp, but at home. And for 2 days, beautiful things have been prepared. A lot of effort has gone in. So please do register. I am going to share the link of the registration in the chat window right now. So you can copy paste it and you can also click that and register now. Or if you want to register later, just copy paste this what I am sending now into some notepad or wherever you have in your phone, and then do register. Faster you register, the better, because camp starts tomorrow. And the second event we have is this Janmashtami celebrations next week, which is on Tuesday, 11th August, 11:30 a.m. to 12:45 p.m. Lot of fun and interesting activities being planned. Bhajans and Krishna Leela and Bhagavatam plays and dance and all this, Janma celebrations. It is open to everybody. Please do attend, and it is being organized by the Devi group of Srimad Bhagavatam of our Chinmay Sagar zone itself. So the registration for that, there are 3 groups and you can use any of these 3. Please join any one, either of the 3 WhatsApp groups or a Telegram group. You need to just click on this, any of these links, and join, so that on that day, any documents for chanting or any, the Zoom link and password, etc., we will be posting on that group. And when the event is over, we dissolve that group. So it's not one extra group already with you. So simplest way, because when we tell people to do Zoom registration, they do it and they get an email, they don't check, then they panic last minute. All that confusion need not be there. Just join any of these groups. 3 WhatsApp groups, join any one, or join one of the Telegram groups. Only one Telegram group is there, join that, and you will get the information. I will be sending this, I've already sent, I think, on the study group chat. If I have not sent, I will send it. You are welcome to forward it to other people also. Let more people benefit and attend the satsang. Thank you very much.
Swamiji, can Madhuri-ben propose a vote of thanks to you? Madhuri-ben, please.
Okay. On behalf of all our study groups, I think there are 3 of Vinita ji's, 3 of mine, and 1 of Shailaja's. Swamiji, thank you very much for a very lucid exposition on Jiva Srishti and Ishwar Srishti. After all our journeying together, I hope at least from Jiva Srishti we can rise to Ishwar Srishti. That is our only wish, that we learn to rise above sansar and see it all as God's creation. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hari.
And thank you for bringing all these Devi groups together, because to address one Devi group otherwise is a mammoth task. So thank you for all of you coming together, and all the Sevikas for continuously keeping all the study group members inspired with the vision of Vedanta and vision of Puja Gurudev. Thank you.
Swamiji, can we share this video with my class? They are not here. I am from Abha Shroff's class. Even Abhaji's class is part of today, which I think they have missed, not mentioned. So can I, this is so well explained. So will you post this YouTube or something? Then I will share it with my class.
Yeah, I will post on the YouTube.
Very good, Swamiji. So much clarification has happened that whenever I used to doubt praying, thinking I am Atman, so many times I've tried to change my mind, but this has cleared it now. Now with conviction, I will do my pujas.
Nice.
All the best.
Thank you. So share it, Swamiji.
Yeah, it will go on YouTube. See, a lot of videos go on Chinmay Shivam channel. Go and subscribe to it. You will keep getting notifications.
Will it be done today? Because I have my class today, then I can show it to them.
It will take 1 hour to upload. That's all.
Okay. Thank you so
Om Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shri Guru
Swamiji, I have one suggestion. You know that game you made us play on 2nd August, that room wala game. Can we do that for our study classes? But we don't know how to do it.
On the Sevika chat, that Sevikas, Shruti ji will train you Sevikas, and then you can play with the your classes. That you can
do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shruti will train us.
Yes, Shruti ji will train you all. After Janmashtami or something, she will fix up a time, and then she will train all the Sevikas, and then you can play with the group.
Okay. Thank you so much.